last few months?
Well, I kind of been moving around with different organizations that I work with, and so I'm not part of the veteran group that I was with before, but I am still doing community events and music, and so a lot of my time has been spent into actually writing music and recording and doing things like that. But I'm still out and about, and my show got discontinued, but it's coming back soon. Just know that.
All right. Speaking of your show being discontinued coming back, you're gonna actually be hosting next week's show.
That's it. I'll be the pinch hitter for the Renaissance man.
The,
So
the pinch hitter. Bring it in and bring us home.
that's it.
All right. Good. So you know what? Over the past couple of weeks, we've been having some good conversations. Not only would talk about me and you, but just in general with people. There's a lot of things that's happened, and especially this week, this past week. Well, it's still this week. This is the last day of the week. There's been so many things that's happened and so much conversation about different things. But as people know, here we don't get into political stuff, at least I don't, or are things that's religiously based because just starts arguments or things that just never end. I mean, they never end. But last time we talked, we were on to talk about we were talking about depression and grief and mental health and mental wellness. And this week, a lot of things happened that's similar to what we were talking about. Because we were talking about grief, how grief can affect your mental health. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but here in California, at the beach this week, there was a situation where a family was walking just out for an enjoyable day at the beach. And we have huge waves that were coming. And a big wave just came and swept a family into the ocean.
Wow.
And so there's two girls and the mother. So the mother and the one girl were rescued, but the 5-year-old, she was swept out to sea. And eventually, a couple of days later, they found her body. So that was very sad. I don't know if you heard that or not.
I haven't. There's been so many things going on. It's hard to keep up nowadays.
Right, right. But that's what happened. And so, as a parent, I can relate to the trauma
Right.
and everything they're going through. The pain, the loss, especially in a situation like that, because all you wanted to do was take your family out and enjoy the beach, enjoy the view. They weren't in the water. So let's get that straight right now because there's a lot of criticism going around. And that's what makes me bring this up partly. There's a lot of criticism going around about, oh, you should have never went to the beach. You should never took your kids to the beach. You should have never been walking on the beach with those conditions. But they weren't in the water. So let's get that clear first. So therefore, that part of the irresponsibility, that's an unjust statement. Excuse me. And they weren't even walking close to the edge. But this wave, just one of those unfortunate things, this huge wave came and washed them into the ocean. But I say that to say this, that in the midst of all that's going on, how insensitive some people can be.
Oh yeah, people. It's hard to believe,
Right,
but people just they don't care. Unless they know someone, and even then, sometimes they don't care.
right,
Yeah, and they show no sympathy. No, there's people are not sympathetic or empathetic. It's shocking.
right. A lot of times they're pathetic. That's the pathetic you get
Right.
from them.
Exactly.
And you're not actually thinking how this mother must feel. How all the things that she's going through, because you just want to go out and enjoy yourself and enjoy your family, and this happens. And you have all these people, oh, they should this, they should that to her, and this and that, and all these different things, and oh, next time, don't do it. Oh, don't do this and do that. I mean, all the things are very negative. And so that's part of the tap into what we're talking about then, the mental issue. And how is that going to affect her, not only her, but the sister who was with her,
All right.
who was pulled out of the water, the ones who survived. how is that going to affect them the rest of their lives? Not including the other family members who was there and all that stuff. So that's just a big old
Yeah.
accident that happened, but yet it's going to have lifetime negative effects on these people. Like you say, the mental health aspect. So I would hope that they would reach out for help and everything, because during that time of that, what you're going through it, especially there's a side of guilt and remorse, and you're trying to say, well, if I wouldn't have did this, if I wouldn't have did that, but nothing can take it. You can't take it back. You can't go back.
Right.
And so, situations like that, that's what we're talking about. You need to reach out and get help. Reach out and get help. Even sometime, if you weren't there, let's say, for example, if you lost a loved one, especially if it was a tragic accident, what this does, this just opens up your own wound. If depending on what kind of person you are, this just opens up your own wound, and then it restarts your depression or your cycle all over again. Because now, if you're able to put yourself in that person's place, and it takes over you, and then that becomes your situation at the time, your empathy and your sorrow, it's all remembered. It comes back, just like if you eat at your favorite restaurant, whatever that might be. You're a steak man, correct?
That's correct.
So if you're a steak man and you walk past and you smell a steak, what is it going to remind you of?
The steak.
The steak. So when things like this happen, a lot of times that's what it does. It reminds us of our own grief. And so if that's the situation with you, like we expressed before, don't be ashamed to reach out and get help. Okay, and another thing, because on our last show also, same show, we're just taking things from that show pertaining to the mental health and all these things. Someone had called in and mentioned about the homeless people. Okay, and so during that time frame, I spoke with some people. They goes, you know what? Because I guess it was MacArthur Park in L.A. They went out and they cleaned the park out. They took everybody out the park. They kicked them out the park. And on the news, they portrayed all these people as being drug addicts, lazy
Criminals
people,
and all of that.
criminals. Yeah, these people with these mental issues that needs to be locked up for their own safety and for public safety. But there's a big percentage of those people who get up every day, they go to work, they have jobs. So I know you say, oh, Mr. E Factor man, you're just making a statement. There's no proof of that.
No,
so what we did, okay, I'm just going to go to this really quick. And we're going to give you proof. All right. Now, I'm going to read from my reader tablet here. Studies estimate that between 40 and 60% of people experiencing homelessness are employed. Research highlights that this demographic frequently works with about 53% of sheltered homeless individuals and 40% of unsheltered homeless individuals holding a full-time or a part-time job. Now, this person, and I give those people extra credit, extra praise and thanks. You know why? Because for you to be homeless or unsheltered, we create all these new words to make ourselves feel better, to make it not sound like what it is.
Right.
But, they're homeless. And they don't have a place to go every day and just call their home, that they're going to. But yet they're getting up, they're going to work.
I know. It's a thing that happens a lot more often than you know. Me being involved with a hospital and things like that, I know nurses. I know a lot of nurses and even doctors and all of that. And there are nurses that actually go to work, and then when they're done, they're sleeping in their car. They go and they find like a YMCA or something, because they can't afford to pay rent. And it's an unfortunate situation, but it happens way more than we know. And, you have to give them, especially if you have a family. If you got 2 or 3 kids and you're all sleeping in a car, you go to work, but it's not enough to feed your family just because, your income is not as great as it should be, or you just can't. I mean, rent is hard to pay, let alone being by yourself with a family and all. Because then you need bigger places. It costs way more. So a lot of that happens way more than you know.
Right, right. And what you said is true with families, because there's also shown that if you have a family, okay, you're working, and then people make statements like, oh, well, they just need to get a better job. They need to make more money. But I'm just going to give you an example right here. If you're working at a company, because how many people did Meta lay off this week? Do you hear about that?
I know it's been a lot of talk about layoffs or across the board.
Right.
Yeah.
So Meta and all these companies, they're laying off people. Oh well, we're cutting down, we're downsizing. I mean, a lot of you out there, you've been fell victim to the downsize. So you have your home, you're working, you're making whatever you're making. It's enough to take care of your home. So you lose your job. So I'm gonna use this for an example because some of those people said they were making $200,000 to $300,000 a year. So when you get laid off, you spend all your whatever your resources are that you have saved to maintain your home, to maintain a living for your family. But once that runs out, you know what you're getting? You're getting unemployment.
Yep.
So you're getting unemployment. And unemployment is $450 a week, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't matter if you were making $1 million a month or $50 a month. Unemployment's max is the same for everybody. And that's not going to cover your bills.
No. That's I mean, it's a real thing, and it's hard to, especially, and then part of that whole what you were just talking about there, somebody who's making $200,000-300,000 a year, they want to continue to live the lifestyle that they're living, even though they just got laid off, and because a lot of times it's the ego, they want people to, oh, I don't want them to know that I'm struggling and all of this, pride steps in a big time when it comes to like being homeless and just needing. I mean, people. It's unfortunate, but this is what society has made people become, because we look up to the ones with the money, and then we try to, to look down to the ones who are homeless, and it's no, nobody's different, because you just don't know. At the drop, blink of an eye, you could become homeless or worse.
Right. Right. That's true. But at the same time, if you're making whatever amount of money you're making, let's say, I don't care if you're not making 200,000, let's say you're making $40,000 a year, and you have your place, that you can afford. People always say, well, they shouldn't live above their means. But your means is that you're living with a roof over your head and food. I'm not saying these people are, the average person is driving $1,000 $1 million cars or have all this stuff, but you're just living to meet your needs. So you're living to meet your needs, and you're working your job, you're paying your rent, you're taking care of your family, you're keeping food on the table. That's your basic living. But even though when you lose your job and now you can't even have your basic living, and then they give you these things that's only $450 a week. And so eventually they say, oh, they should have money saved. They put money away for a rainy day. But the rainy day turns into a El Nino. Mm-hmm. It lasts longer than you anticipated lasting.
Right.
So now you're in a situation where all your savings is gone. All your help you were getting from wherever is gone. Your family, they can't help because they're out of money because they've been helping you. And so you don't have a choice, because when you go to pay your rent, you can't tell your landlord, we've been good here for the last 10 years. We've been living here. We've always been on time with our rent. We don't cause any problems, because sooner or later they're going to tell you, okay, well, we have to get somebody in here who pays the rent, no matter how good you are. So now that's what forces a lot of families into the street or into homelessness or unhousing, as you see it. And I think that a lot of times people would think just like what you said, that you have this you're making all this money and you live in this lavish lifestyle and you don't want to give it up, and then your pride and all that. So that's what's part of it. I mean, with some people in that case, it is part of it. But at the same time, they goes, well, why don't you get another job? Okay, so now I'm making this amount of money because I've been on my job 10, 20 years. Now I have to start over. So when I start over at the next job, I may only be making half of what I was making then.
Right.
But still, when you go to get your another apartment or your house, now your qualifications don't match what the cost is because the cost
Right.
has went up so much. And those are other things like they're saying right now. Even with I'm not a politician, like I say, but with the mayor, the race with the L.A. mayor in Los Angeles, they're saying, okay, you get all this money, you're doing this, you're doing that. But unfortunately, every politician who comes in, they make the same promises. We're
Right.
going to cut rent, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but and that's the politicking. The people, and it's sad that people, especially when they're vulnerable, when they're being vulnerable because they are homeless, their job has changed, or they were they lose their job. When you're vulnerable, you reaching out to try to get anything. It's like okay, and sometimes you can be led down a road to where they're making all of these promises, but then at the end of the day, the promises fail, and when you try to hold them accountable, and I'm talking about like politicians.
Correct?
Oh, they have no comeback, nothing to talk about. They don't want to, sorry, I'm mayor now, or I've been elected now. It's like I don't want to deal with your problems, and so that's kind of the mentality of a politician, and it's sad, but it's a real thing.
Right, it's reality. And so now we're going to go further. I'm just going to go back to this for just one moment because these are some important pointers. Okay, now it says so let me get to it. Some of the primary barriers finding and keeping housing, even with an income, security deposits, and background checks. So you get your new job. You goes, okay, the apartment is, I'm just gonna throw out a figure, $1,200 a month. So now I have my 1,200, or I have, let's say they usually go first and last. I have my $2,400 because I want to get my family out of the streets, out of the car, and into housing. So you go, you apply for the application. So you need your first and your last, and then your security deposit.
Right.
So sometimes the security deposit can be 3 times what the rent is.
Yes, it depends. You're right.
Right, and you're doing the background checks and all these different things. So while all this is going on, you're in the process. You're waiting, and then it's easy for you to lose faith and lose
The
courage.
system. Yeah, right.
Because everything right now is kicking you. You down, but it's kicking you. And so what do? Everybody, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Yeah, that's
doesn't
fine.
work. Yeah, that doesn't work for everyone, though.
Right.
Especially like you say, if you have a family that you're, it's not easy because at the bottom line is you may be able to get this apartment, but then there's a struggle. Maybe you don't have enough to feed your whole family. What you really need, and you're scraping, and and a lot of times this is the case. And it's sometimes you just. I mean, I've seen all kinds of situations where they're riding a $60, $70, $80,000 car, but they can't pay their rent, and they can pay their car note, but then it's like they're just way off keel about the reality of what's going on with them, and it really makes it's hard when you have children and. That's a whole different thing that another what do you call it, formula that needs to be figured out too.
Right, but that formula is a little different than the homeless formula because you're by choice.
Right.
You can't afford this car and all these things, but yet you want to get the car, you want to floss, you want everybody to think you're successful, and so you put yourself and your family in that situation. Whereas that's different. Someone who lose their job or even you've been in your place for however long, and they tell you, okay, so we're raising the rent, and next thing you know, they raise the rent to the point where you just can't afford it. And okay, well, what goes on your door? That note, 3 days or quit.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts you in that situation, as opposed to the other person just being irresponsible. That's a different situation. That's just being careless and irresponsible, and you become homeless. That's a choice you made from your actions. And a lot of times, like I was saying, they say, "Oh, well, pull yourself up by the bootstraps." But if you don't have shoes on, there's no bootstraps,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Because you can get to a point where it's, a lot of times you see people walk around with no shoes or what have you on. And so my thing in just bringing that up was a lot of times when we look at certain people's situations, you know, even though no matter with the loss of a child or certain things, still you looking at them and being so quick to judge them on what it is that they did wrong and they should have this, they should have that. Or you look at someone who's homeless and you're so quick to put them in a category, oh, they're lazy, they're a drug addict, they have mental issues. Be a little more sympathetic. Be a little more, is it empathetic? Is that a word?
No, it's when you're
Empathy.
empathetic.
Okay, so
You
be a
kind
little,
of like, so you can kind of put yourself in that situation.
right.
I believe. Am I correct or wrong, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to think about that, and we're going to take a break in a minute. But I just want to tell you a quick story.
Okay.
I remember one time I was going into the grocery store. And so when I pull up, I see this lady outside talking to this young man. And she's really loud. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And so as I get closer, there's people watching. The lady's scolding the young man, for asking her for money. And she's scolding him, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, and, you're this, you're that. And he goes, ma'am, no, you don't understand. He started a job or something to that effect, but at the time he just didn't have any money, and he was hungry. And so he's, no, ma'am, I don't do that. I don't drink, I don't do drugs or nothing. I just don't have money right now, and I just want to get something to eat. And she, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you want my money, you're going to listen to me. I'm thinking, that's unnecessary. You're doing this because you have a crowd, you have an audience.
All right.
So you're really just putting on a show for yourself to embarrass this young man, to make you look good for yourself. He goes, ma'am, I just want some food, and she keeps going, well, if you want my money. And so he turns around and he walks away, all in despair, and everybody's watching him walk away, not to put myself in like I'm so good. So I go over there and I go, hey, my young brother, because, I talk to people like that.
Right.
Because I'm kind of cool, but, that's out of date. So I go, hey, my young brother, what's going on with you, man? And, he's almost into tears. He says, man, I got a job, but right now I just don't have money for food. He said, all I want is some food. And, and she's doing all this. She's embarrassing me and this. I goes, man, I understand where you're going from. So I ain't gonna tell you how much money I gave him, but I said I gave him some money. Say here and use this, because I truly in my heart believe that's all he wanted was food, because he didn't have that look of,
Right.
He just had a look like, and I've been there before, and had to go borrow money. Hey, you know what? Till I get paid next week, I don't have no money. And so, hey, can you loan me some money and I'll give it back to you? And I didn't need you to because you don't know,
I know
why he didn't have the money. So I gave him some money. I said, hey man, I hope this helps you out till you can get some money to get, and use it to get you some food. And he was so thankful, till he almost cried. But at the same time, I almost cried too.
Right.
Because I remember being in a situation similar to that, but I had people to help. So when you don't have nobody to help and these things happen, the last thing you need is somebody to stomp on you, especially in that case to embarrass and humiliate you in front of a whole bunch of people.
It's funny that you say that because I know somebody who did the same thing. The homeless guy was there and he said, oh, can, and I think he said, can you loan me 50 cents? Now, 50 cents, we're talking about a guy who's making, big money, and
Right.
his answer was, I will not. Go get a job. It's like, wow, it's like, the man asking you for 50 cents and you gonna give him the riot act, read him
Right.
the riot act. That's like, it's like, you know, it's like that. How can people be so insensitive and, you know, they just don't care.
Right. But the thing, what my point is this: if you didn't want to give the young man money or that person money, just say no and keep walking.
I know.
You don't have to
you
turn
don't have
around
to
and-
ridicule them and all of that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, especially in this situation, the lady was loud because I pulled up and, you know, you had a few people standing around. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? You know, almost like you reprimanding your son or something. And she was loud, and I pulled up. She, you know, signifying, and all that stuff. And the young, he's just standing there. He's going, you know, he's going like this, like, no, you know. And so then it felt good to help him out.
Right. Right.
You know, because sometimes your thing that you don't realize, there's a certain feeling that comes to you when you truly help people out of your heart. Now, when you just help them, I want everybody to see me do it. Because when I talked to him, people had gone in the store, and I just stood there and waited. And so then I walked and called up to him and talked to him. It wasn't like I was going to come, hell, don't you worry. Don't worry, young man. I'll give you money. Look, everyone, I'll give him money. You know,
I know, yeah,
because he was already humiliated and embarrassed. So I just went over there to the side to talk to him. And sometimes that's what people need.
That's right. They don't need to be ridiculed.
Right.
I mean, you know, I had this thing happen not too long ago. I went to, I was at a church. You know, we did a little performance with the band, and you know, after we did our thing, they served food, and so our food was kind of sitting on the table after, you know, we were wrapping it up, and so I started eating, but I had a lot left, and then I said, well, I'll just take this home, and a guy came by, and he's a regular through that church. And I guess he's like, they have homeless people that are around him, but he, you know, he didn't look the homeless, but he came by and he was like, is there any more food left? And I was like, no, that's it. And I was, you know, without even entertaining it, I was like, this guy needs food. I said, hey, you know what? Here, just take my, you know, I had a soda I never even drank. I said, take this, just take my food. And I said, you know, and I didn't broadcast it or anything. And so when I got ready to leave, the pastor came and talked to me. He says, oh, I understand you gave that so-and-so, you gave him your food. I said, yeah. I said, you know what? You know, I believe in blessing someone because that's where my blessings come from.
Right.
You know, so things like that, it's like, you know, it's a no-brainer. It's like, what do I look? Yeah, no, I'm taking my food home. This guy missed out on the food. There you go. And he was very thankful, so.
Right, right. I mean, you know, and you look kind of healthy. I mean, I don't think if you missed eating the rest of that food, you'd have passed out or nothing.
Right.
You know what? All right. Hey, we're going to take a break, but we'll be back when the break is over, however long that be. Hey, I'm your host of the E Factor Radio Show, Cornelius Bryant. Special guest, Charles Whitehead.
KCAA Radio has openings for 1-hour talk shows. If you want to host a radio show, now is the time. Make KCAA your flagship station. Our rates are affordable and our services are second to none. We broadcast to a population of 5 million people. Plus, we stream and podcast on all major online audio and video systems. If you've been thinking about broadcasting a weekly radio program on Real Radio plus the internet, contact our CEO at 281-599-9800. 281-599-9800. You can Skype your show from your home to our Redlands, California studio where our live producers and engineers are ready to work with you personally. A radio program on KCAA is the perfect work from home avocation in these stressful times. Just type kcaaradio.com into your browser to learn more about hosting a show on the best station in the nation or call our CEO for details, 281-599-9800.
And now, the voices of KCAA with an exciting announcement.
Want to hear NBC News or KCAA anywhere you go?
Well, now there's an app for that.
KCAA is celebrating 25 years and our silver anniversary with a brand new app.
The new KCAA app is now available on your smart device, cell phone, in your car, or any place.
Just search KCAA on Google Play or in the Apple Store.
One touch and you can listen on your car radio, Bluetooth device, Android Auto, or Apple CarPlay.
Catch the KCAA buzz in your earbuds or on the streets, celebrating 25 years of talk, news, and excellence with our new KCAA KCAA app.
Just do it and download it.
KCAA, celebrating 25 years.
All right. Welcome back to the E Factor Radio Show. I'm your host, Cornelius Bryant, special guest Charles Whitehead. Okay, Charles, when we went to break, we were talking about some situation with people. But since this is Father's Day month, June, and we're just going to have a little conversation about men, because the men are fathers.
Right.
And stuff. And what I said last week, because I was listening to this show, I listen to stuff every now and then. And they were talking about how the young men in America are falling behind, and how they need help. And so like, well, how are the young men falling behind? How they need help? And this goes, everybody, naturally they think, men who are underserved or black, brown, or whatever. But I'm just talking about just men in general. Just a man. We're not going to put a color or ethnic group on them. We're just going to talk about men. And so I begin to wonder, well, why is this? Because, of course, with the Renaissance man, that's what we do. We teach the life skills and things to help people prepare themselves and better themselves, even with emotional skills, how to deal with things emotionally, emotional intelligence, because that's a big factor. Because we know a lot of times when things happen, we're not taught how to deal with them. So our reaction is I'm not going to say over the top, but we don't think first. What they used to say, take a few breaths and think about it. We just act, we just do, and that's part of it. And so I'm going to read this right here. In brief, many young men in America, not all, many young men in America are facing real challenges, but the situation is mixed rather than uniformly negative. All right, so some key concerns. Men are falling behind women in college enrollment and degree attainment. So that's saying that you have more women, because decades ago, probably like in the 60s and stuff like that, you had majority of men in college, not so many women. But now they're saying that's changed, that there's more women now going to college than men. So if you're obtaining higher education, what does that usually mean?
You're going to be moving, your gender is going to move past the men, so if you have a higher education, then, you have an opportunity to, have a better lifestyle, bottom line. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, but for the most part, it do. And then the other thing, you were saying, even with women, like I don't know how, for the longest it was always said there's like 10 women for every man. So now the women are educating themselves. They're it used to be the woman stayed at home, and the man went to work. Now it's like women are like working, and he said, I don't need your money. But so if you get an education, it's beneficial.
Right. So that means now they're in a situation where they're able to obtain better jobs and better salaries. Right. And so that's one thing. So, all right. Now, some young men, especially those without college degrees, are less connected to the workforce than previous generations. So can you, in your own words, see, we're in a class now, explain to us what connected to the workforce means?
That means you know how to get work. That means you know how to, go out and find work. It used to be, we could go out and find work, whether it was working temporary and not making a lot of money at a car wash or fast food or whatever. But, a lot of times now, they're not out, they're disconnected. They don't want to work. Especially the younger ones, they do not want to work. They want to, especially with social media and all of this. Oh, I'm gonna become a YouTube influencer, or I'm doing this and that. I mean, they're disconnected. So the jobs aren't being filled, and so what's happening now? Women are taking those jobs as well. So the young men are kind of losing out, and they don't. Their reality is not with working. So people have this. Maybe I can do this get rich scheme or whatever, and things, and that's part of the disconnect. But it's a bigger problem all the way around.
Right. That's one aspect of it. And here's another one. That my opinion. Everything's our opinions, people. It's not, so don't later call and slam us or do whatever. These are our opinions. And everyone's allowed to have their opinion. And you should have your opinion. But another aspect of that is in the workforce is because if you're not trained and you're not skilled, before, like you said, you go get a job at a car wash or you can go do this. But now the car washes are automated. Mm-hmm. So you go through the car wash, unless you go through the hand car wash, everything runs itself. You just go through it. Everything runs itself. If you don't get the right job, the money isn't there. And then that's what we were talking about earlier about some people have jobs, but they're still homeless because of the amount of salary that's paid to those jobs. And so, excuse me. And another side of that is that younger people, they want to start off the job making top pay.
Dog. Oh, yeah.
They want to start off their job making top pay. They don't realize because a lot of times they're not taught that it's a process. Mm-hmm. You have to be trained. You have to go through this process of learning what the job is. They goes, well, it's just working at McDonald's. Because it's not like before when we were young, you worked at McDonald's. It was quite simple. Now with McDonald's, all these things are automated too. Yes. And everything's done. You got to have technology. You can direct the registers and all the stuff on your ears to take the orders. You have to know how to operate all those different systems. And so it's still a process of learning. And you think that you're going to come in and then there's another mentality. Well, if you're not going to pay me top dollar, I'm not going to work.
And there it is.
I'm not going to work. And that's not work. So I'm not going to work, because I'm not going to go bust my butt for, I don't know what minimum wage is now, but let's just say in some places it's $20 an hour. Mm-hmm. $20 an hour, you work at a certain place, but you want the manager's pay. You want the $35, $40 an hour. And so they need to be taught. I mean, there's not enough training to me. And that's what I'm here to do, help train. To me, there's not really a lot of training going on because, as you say, they want to do these influencer things and like that.
Yeah, they want to do the shortcut stuff.
Shortcuts. I mean, that's good because some of those people make lots of money.
Right, but there are only few and far. They're like pro athletes. Only so many people can be pro athletes,
Right. And so now your thing is that you're kind of giving up. You want to be an influencer or you want to play games or you a gamer because I guess they get paid too. You want to do these things, but you have to be willing to put in the work no matter what it is. And so that's part of it. All right. And it goes, rates of loneliness and social isolations are high. And I don't know, loneliness. So, and socially high. Because the thing is, when you came in, we've talked about this before. When you came in with the social media and all these things, that's a big influence on people. So are they saying that the loneliness is because you don't have friends? But I think more or less what they're speaking to, the loneliness because you don't have companionship.
Right.
Female companionship, something like that. And part of that reason is because when you go on social media, there's a certain look, be it male or female, there's a certain look. So you look at these people, these influencers, you see what they have and all these things. And so when people look for things, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that type of person.
All right.
They're not looking for somebody like me, short and bald and all that. They want the guy with the long, flowy hair. What women say, oh, I can't date a guy who's not over 6 feet tall. So that eliminates a lot of us. No, we're not over 6 feet tall. Joe stands up. He's like 6'6". His hair is flowing in the wind like a commercial. Then there's me. And so now that's what you're up against.
And you know what? With social media, here's a big problem because I've had this discussion with other people before. There's too many choices. And so instead of you saying like if you go and you meet somebody or whatever, it used to be the old days, you go to the grocery store or whatever and you meet somebody, you
Right.
start talking, you get to know them. Now they got all of these sites that you can go to and you try
Dating
to
apps and
dating apps and everything, and so you got 10 people that are your match. You're looking at person one, but you're already looking at person 10 without even wanting to know. And so you have too many choices. So by default, now you're sitting by yourself because you don't want to make a choice and go with it because you're afraid to be committed to that. There's a
right.
lot of problems like that too. And as young men, especially this generation now, they're finding it hard to just to cope with the way life has changed. Like when we were coming up, it's a whole different deal. And now it's all about social media. It's all about being on there, making yourself look like somebody that you really aren't, and
Right.
so things like that. It's big now, and it's if it, the like I say the young men are going in the wrong direction, and they need to be taught and told, hey, you know, stick with this, stay down this lane. If you go down this lane, you're going to make it. Nothing's guaranteed, but if you go down that lane that it's a lot of failures, then okay, well, that's the choice you make. But then remember that, there are consequences for that down the road.
Right. There's consequences, but people don't talk about consequences enough. And to go back to that, so now you have the ladies, we talked about them in the college and the jobs. Now you have the guy who's uneducated or whatever the case may be. And so now these women, they're online or what have you, and you ask them what kind of guy you want. Well, he has to be at least 6 feet tall. He has to have a muscular body, abs, this flowy hair and all this stuff. And he has to make at least six figures. And so now you look at all these categories and you fit none.
No.
You fit none of the categories. So what are you going to do? And then the girl goes out. I mean, it's not a lot of those guys around. And those ones who are around, they're picking and choosing. And they may pick you for a day or two, but they're not going to stick with you because, like I said, they have too many choices.
Right.
Too many choices. And so they get the girl, they dump the girl. Now the girl's hurt and she's mad at everybody or what have you. But no matter what, you still don't fit the picture, the profile. So you never get picked. So now you've been rejected and rejected and rejected. And so now everything about your life and your sight is a failure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you can tell people, what's the saying? I can teach you how to fish, but I can't fish for you. It's like you got to learn how to catch your own fish, and it's not going to happen by me going and doing it for you. And so it's unfortunate, but people don't want to listen to logic too.
Right.
That's a big thing. It's like as you grow up as a young man, you have father figures around you, and a lot of times the father figures aren't around, and so the young men end up listening to their friends in the street and people that they go to school with who have a different lifestyle, and so they think, well, if they can do it, I can do it, and it's a whole different deal.
Right, in reality. And it's funny, as we were talking about the dating sites.
Yes.
And I don't want people to think you did it on purpose. And then you started talking about fishing. Like aren't some of the dating sites called Fish or something?
Oh yeah, they call catfishing.
Catfishing. See?
Yeah, that's when yeah, go ahead.
No, you tell her. You the one brought it up.
Because catfishing is when you think you're talking to a person, and because they put up this fake, what do you call it, profile. You think you're talking to, like people think they're talking to like famous people. I know somebody who's like that, and and they're all like, I said, well, have you ever met him? No, but we've been, known him since so many years. I said, you never talked to him or anything like that. So, it's things like that. It's like, that's the catfish part. You think you got this, but, what it really is a sardine, so.
Right. And that's what happened a lot of times with people. You know, you go, like you say, you go on these sites, or even you meet people on these different apps, or even online. Some people, they just meet people. Oh, I met them online. I was like, oh, who are? Oh, I met them online. They're this, they're that, and they do this. They make this money. They have this, they have that, and so you're comparing yourself to these people, and you come to find out that they're worse off than you.
Yep.
But we're not promoting fishing or nothing
no,
like that.
No. Yeah, don't do it.
All right. Okay.
If you're going fishing, make sure you have a pole and you go to the water. We're not talking about online.
Right. And so men have the higher rate of suicide and are less likely to seek mental health treatment. And that's true because, you know, the suicide rate, like we were talking about the mental health and all that stuff, because we don't want to go talk to people. I mean, especially, you know, because we're both black sitting here, but, you know, we're talking about all men.
Right.
As they say, men. But especially in the black community, you know, we're not going to go talk to people. We're not going to go tell somebody, oh, man, you know, I'm so lonely, because every woman I come across that I try to talk to, you know, she look at me and goes, oh, I'm sorry, Cornelius, I can't talk to you because you're short, fat, bald, and broke. You know, and so now my whole mentality is defeated. I'm sad. I'm never happy. You know, no matter where I go, I look at other people. Oh, why are they always so happy? Why does my friend Joe, so tall with long hair, and all the women want him and not me? Excuse me. And so now I'm just getting more and more depressed, and I don't go talk to people. I don't seek out help. And so eventually I figure, well, I'm better off not even being here.
Yeah, it's a sad thing, you know, and you know, a lot of those numbers, especially with men, come from veterans,
right?
Because there's like 22 veterans a day or something are committing suicide. That's a lot. That's a big number.
It is.
You know, I mean, and you know, so, and you know, because they come out of wars or whatever. I mean, you know, that's a whole different show, but you know, it's involving the men, and you know, it's hard. You know, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like you have to educate the men on what they don't need to do sometimes before you tell them what they do need to do. You know?
Right. You know what? And so I hate that I don't have that number with me today, but I think it was you can just text it. I think it is 988. I'm not positive, but 988. You just text if you need help to talk to someone with mental issues or anything. And another reason why I'm gonna tell you that I think it's so high, besides the veteran things, because if you stop and think about it, now here it is that for example, let's say you're this person who you had a job, now you're unemployed, or you work at some low-level job, you're sleeping in your car, and your wife and family, now they're not with you. And so your wife goes to work, or she goes wherever she goes, and she meets Stan. Okay, so now here's Stan. He's stable, he has a job, and he starts dating your wife. He dates your wife, and now he's dating your wife, and he's able to do for your kids. And now your kids are looking up to him,
right.
And they're being all nice to him. Oh, whatever I want, Stan gets it for me. And then your wife is like, oh, you're not even a man. Somebody else has to take care of your kids. Stan does this with the kids. He does that. You don't do anything. And so now that's driving you to feel less than anything.
Than you're right.
And now what are your options as far as you're concerned? You know, you're like, oh, well, my kids don't like me. No one likes me. I'm just by myself. So, you know, I can't even look at myself and stand to be alive. And that's part of it. And so, excuse me, all these things add up, because in a man's life, you know, certain things are more important than him than others.
Right.
And so if you're used to having this family structure and now you don't have it, and you're unhoused, or even if you're housed, you have the inability to take care of your family the way you want to. And now you have everybody else looking to other people to take care of them and praising other people. Then they're like giving you credit, like, oh, well, I know you're trying the best you can. I know you're trying. And we love you for trying. It's like, oh, no, you know, I don't care how hard you're trying. I want a Nintendo 5.
Right.
I want a Nintendo 5.
That's funny.
And this person can give me the Nintendo 5. And so forget you. I'm going with this person. you know,
yes,
and
I
all
know.
that wears and tears.
It is. And that I looked it up. It is 988 is the suicide and crisis line. So
Right. Not only suicide, because once you commit suicide, you can't call them
done.
suicide prevention and crisis line. So if you need help or what have you, men, don't be ashamed. Even if you have to go and call, well, nobody knows. Reach out, get help. But you know what? I want, because this was going to be Men's Month. And so next week is the 20th. You know what that is?
fathers. Oh, that's the. I'll be here. I'll be hosting the show.
You'll be hosting the show, but the Friday, next Sunday is Father's Day.
Yes. So I can talk about Father's Day, real easy.
All right. So not only do I want to talk about Father's Day, but if you can, because you're tuned in with the veterans.
Yes.
And like we said, the veterans suicide rate is high.
Yes.
So can you do something to enlighten our audience on veterans and how, even on Father's Day, because a lot of times we just take for granted all the service people, be it men and women, Father's Day, Mother's Day, we take for granted on this day that we're just gonna, well, they don't do stuff for Father's Day anymore. Like on Mother's Day, you go in the store, you can't find flowers, all that's gone.
Yeah.
But on Father's Day, you go in there, there's no flowers because they didn't get any because nobody buys them for them.
I know.
And so how do you celebrate your father? So we can do something along those lines. That would be great. You can do whatever you want. But if we just do something along the lines of the veterans, and you talk about fathers, because your father, you're actually a military kid.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You've traveled around the world.
Yes.
And so you have good insight on the fathers, the travel, and what the kids go through and all those things.
Yes. And
the mother with the kids most of the time.
And I think it goes way back before because it was always the fathers working so hard. So when Father's Day came, he's like, I just want to stay home, and so, maybe they got to the point where they was like, well, okay, then we won't make Father's Day as important, because the mothers were at home taking care of the kids and the fathers go to work. When they get home, they're like,
no, I don't know. But anyway, I'll let you explain it next week.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey, check this out. Next week, Charles Whitehead, he's going to do something for fathers, and he's going to do whatever he wants with the veterans, fathers, and all that stuff. He's going to have something for you. So join us next week at 2 p.m. All right, I'm the host with the E Factor Radio Show. I'm your host, Cornelius Bryant. Special guest, Charles Whitehead.
Thank you for having me, Cornelius.
And next week, Charles, it's all yours. Tune in. Goodbye, family and friends.
For more local radio every day, listen to KCAA.
The Tahibo Tea Club is the only FDA-registered manufacturer of original pure Pau de Arco Tahibo tea in the United States. Just $59.95 with free shipping. Call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088 or visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Call us at 818-610-8088.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email CEO@kcaaradio.com.
KCAA.
With 60 years of fascinating facts, this is the man from yesterday. Back in time we go to this time in 1975. Muhammad Ali introduces a new line of hair care and beauty products under the name of Knockout at a press conference.
Muhammad Ali, he floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. Muhammad, the black Superman.
This time in 1977, Columbia Pictures severs its ties with Bette Midler, saying it just didn't work out.
I have a wonderful, remarkable sense of humor. It's very, it's not the ordinary sense of humor. I can't explain it. My twists the way I look at things is just the tiniest bit twisted.
And from about this time in 1999, she appeared on Disney's Mickey Mouse Club for the past 2 seasons. Now, teenager Christina Aguilera looks like she's going to be a pop star.
Now, Christina Aguilera. She's one of the hottest young singing sensations around, a role model for millions.